It's my pleasure to introduce your keynote speaker, Gerald, and I should have asked you because I have a speech articulation disorder. It bothered my father this whole time, so I'll let you give your last name so I don't butcher it. Is CEO of and founder of Europe, an innovative program that empowers urban young adults to enter the economic mainstream. With its annual operating budget of approximately $90 million, Europe is one of the fastest growing nonprofits in the nation and is recognized by the Fast Company and the Monitor Group as one of the top 25 organizations using business excellence to engineer social change. Gerald has received numerous awards and honor degrees for social entrepreneurship and youth development, and his work has been featured in the New York Times, US Today, Newsweek, NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, and Fox Business. He serves on the board of advisors for Harvard Business School Social Enterprise Initiative, and in 2013 was appointed by the Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick to serve as chairman of the Roxbury Community College Board of Trustees. A graduate of Bowdoin College and Harvard Business School, Gerald lives in Boston with his wife and 3 children. His book, A Year Up, is a New York Times bestseller. So I please welcome Gerald to the stand.
Thank you so much, Dean. And it is Chertavian. I still stumble over it myself, so that's all right. Thank you, Chad, for asking me to be here today. I appreciate it. And welcome to you all. How you doing this morning? You made it in amidst the snow. I love it. These are determined educators. Fantastic. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to spend some time with you here today. It really does. I know and have tremendous respect for the choice you have made to be in public education, to serve young people. I've had the honor to get to know that field a little bit over the past 15 years. And I tell you, I think our best talent in this country resides in our public schools, and just an amazing group of folks. I tell you, I love to be here with you. I also love what this initiative is doing. And it personally had a lot of, I think, catharsis and enlightenment around when you really take data and you use it to drive process. For us, in fact, it was interesting. I'll tell you a story in a minute, how data unlocked something that we were trying for 4 years to move. We were trying to move a needle for 4 years on retention of the students we serve at Year Up. And it wasn't until we really got deep, deep down into the data and made some assumptions that we were going to change process and then measured it very carefully and increased our retention by a remarkable percent, which means more young people walked across the stage at the end of the year, which is powerful. I'll give you a little bit of context for myself and how I led into this work. So about 28 years ago, coming on 30 years ago, I got involved in the Big Brothers program. And my little brother at that point lived in the most heavily photographed crime scene in New York City. So I spent every Saturday with this boy, was a wonderful young boy, David Heredios, from the Dominican Republic. His mom didn't speak English. He had 4 brothers, all just motivated, hungry, smart. And I never forget the day when Cornelia, his mom, asked me to go to his parents' night at his school. He went to PS 156 down the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And I walked in. I was kind of excited. I was only 22. And I said, "Hi, I'm here. I'm David's dad for the evening, ostensibly his father." And his mom asked me to come. And I said to his instructor at the time, "Could you tell me about David?" And the instructor looked up and he scratched his head and he looked up at the sky and he said, "David, David, which kid is he?" And my heart literally sank. And, and I thought, boy, this is my boy, right? This is a boy I love. He's now 28 years later a member of our family. And I treat him pari passu my other biological children. But it struck me at that time the difference between education, between teachers who knew who you were, teachers who didn't, teachers who were helping him progress, teachers that perhaps didn't. Then I think about what you're all here today is because you know that difference, right? You know that viscerally. You care about it. You've devoted your lives, literally your entire careers, to saying, I get how critical this is, that each child gets that education they need, so that there aren't more stories like my little brother David having gone into that school and seen what he was faced with back 20-odd years ago. But David gave me the inspiration to start this program called Year Up, which is just at context, we work with low-income 18 to 24-year-olds, and in 1 year, 1 year moved them from poverty to a professional career. They're high school grads, GED recipients. They're young adults, 40% of which tried college and dropped out after a semester, for the most part. They are all super talented, super motivated, and we've now had the blessing to serve 13,000 young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 in 14 cities around this country. And you know what? They work in the best companies in America today. Whether it's Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, State Street, B of A, Goldman Sachs, the state government, the White House, all over the country. And the reason is those young adults are the economic assets this country needs. They are absolutely stronger and more resilient and have more grit because of what they've overcome. They're who our economy needs, who our country needs. So it's been a blessing to serve those young adults. But I think it was because of that experience back in 07, 06, the governor asked me to join the Board of Education for Massachusetts. And that, for me, was, again, cathartic, to really see what's happening for 1 million children in this state, to get a chance to visit a lot of schools, to see what you're all doing every day. And I tell you, man, my appreciation can't go deeper for the work you do. I mean, I really do get it, and it's critical. And so one thing that I was seeing as we're in the Board of Ed, and remember I have this Year Up thing, which is about preparing young people for work world. We also enroll them in community college around the country, so they earn a year of college credit while they get prepared to work. It's a dual program. And I went back to something. How many of you read the book, Teaching the New Basic Skills? A few people? It was written by Dick Bernane and Frank Levy. I picked it up in 2000, and it really did change my life. You know, you say you have books that change your life. And so this book talked very, very thoughtfully about the changes in the economy that were happening, about how skills that were in demand were changing. So there were skills now around the problem-solving, critical thinking, social, personal development, what you may call soft skills in addition to hard skills. And then they went on to say that if you look over the next 30 years, the couple sets of skills that are going to grow in ascendancy in terms of demand are complex communications and non-routine cognitive thought, right? That's what our employers are going to demand. That's what our economy is going to demand, in that we've got to prepare young people for the changes in this economy. And that economy is changing faster than most organisms, organizations, and people can change. And so that book, for me, painted a picture of what's going to happen over my lifetime to change the context that we're preparing young people for. And then something else happened, and has been happening, is that because socioeconomics, wages have stagnated for so long in this country, because 50% of folks who go to college today work full-time in this country, because a Bachelor of Arts average age is 28, right? School is no longer linear. It's not go to school, go to work, right? That used to be the concept. We go to school, we go to work. Well, 50% of folks who go to college work full-time. 80% work at least part-time. The cost of college is the only cost that's risen faster than the cost of health care. Right? I was saying to the dean, I talked to a young man yesterday who was transferring to UVM. I said, how much does that cost? He said, well, I don't live in the States, so it'll be $50,000. I know his parents, and I know they can't afford that. He said, well, I don't know if I can afford it. I said, yes. And so you realize that the cost has gone up, the premium is greater, the skills are changing, and boy, we've created a pretty perfect storm. Not we've created, we've inherited a pretty perfect storm. And it's hard. And a lot of times people think public education is supposed to just pick it all up and miraculously solve this problem. Guess what? It's harder than that. And it's going to take greater alignment to do that across this whole state. And so, and we'll do just one quick test because this brings it home. Just quickly, raise your hand if you have a college degree. Keep it up if you got it between the ages of 18 and 22. Okay, someone from the back, look down and just give me what % of hands are still up in this room. How many hands are still up? What % of all the hands? 3/4, 80%? Probably around 80, 85%. Now, if you ask that same two questions of any 100 adults in America, right? You go to any 100 adults across all of the United States, you ask those two questions, how many hands will be up on average? 85% of our hands will be up. How many hands would be up, do you think? Half. 20. 15. 8. 8 hands would be up. 8 hands would be up. Think about that. Right? 8 hands would be up. We think about education in this yesteryear model. 92% of Americans don't do it linearly. They don't do it in traditional college. So when we talk about college and career readiness, let's be honest. To be ready for college, to be ready for a career, are convergent lines in this country. They're not divergent lines. They're not wholly unrelated. They're convergent. In fact, we shouldn't even have 2 words. We should just say Mass Institute for Readiness. Why do we make a differentiation? You want a good work, you want a good college student? The skills are convergent. Sure, there's some differences. I get that. But the lines aren't going apart, folks. They're coming together, and they're going to increasingly come together as almost every single job in this country requires knowledge-based skills, right? Imagine consigning a young person into the economy today and not having more than a high school education, right? Who would do that to their child? And so that's why, I guess, final, when the Board of Ed launched this ICCR initiative, Integrating College and Career Readiness, and I jumped at the opportunity to get involved with that and worked with Keith Westridge and a lot of folks at the department. It's just absolutely been wonderful work. In the 2 things, I'll just read these 2 things that were at the top of that report. It said, the knowledge and skills of career and workplace lend essential context and relevancy to the educational experience of all Mass students, right? Career readiness isn't those kids. You know, I went to Lowell. Is anyone here from Lowell, representing Lowell? Yeah, love Lowell. Lowell High School, baby. Red Raiders. Yes. And do you know, when I went to Lowell High School, I was threatened if I was a bad kid, you know where they would send me? To the Voc. But think about that. Think of what we did to vocational education in this country. We effectively bastardized vocational education. The fact is we need knowledge-based education. We need vocational education for a knowledge-based economy. Vocational education is where it's at. Go to Worcester, right? See how amazing work they're doing there. But it doesn't have to be either or. It's all students need that exposure to careers. Every single student, especially a young person who may not have the role models, whether they're in family or community, to help them see what does this world of work actually look like. And it is not at the expense of academic skills at all. The second sentence of that report says, students who are able to gain experience and exposure to work are better prepared to persist in and complete a post-secondary education and succeed in earning livable wages. That wasn't opinion, that was the research. Those were the facts. And so we know this was relevant. And so that report, which was put out in 2012 and had 6 recommendations, I know there's a copy here for folks who wanted to review it. They were things like including career readiness in the recommended course of study. Right? Can you imagine saying we have career readiness, but there's no standards and no assessments? You're all educators, right?